Hey everybody, welcome to East to West Weight Loss Surgery, where we support the community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April and I am the West.
And I'm Jason and I'm the East.
And today we are super excited to welcome back Becca. You can find her on Instagram at Refreshing Becca. Becca joined us a few weeks ago in one of our podcasts, and Jason had to step away from that episode. He was there in the beginning. And when Becca and I, as soon as I stopped recording the episode, Becca and I had another hour-long conversation about some things that she has been experiencing in her life before her weight loss surgery procedure. And that conversation was so meaningful. It was so powerful that we decided that we needed to turn that into a podcast episode, because so many people, I think, are going to resonate with what we are talking about today. So kind of before we go into what the outsider syndrome is and we dive into the episode, Becca, will you just introduce yourself to our watchers and to our listeners? Kind of who are you, where are you from, how old are you, what type of surgery you hoping to have, and then anything else that you'd like people to know about you.
Sure. So hi guys, my name is Becca. I'm on Instagram at refreshing.becca. So as April said, I was here two weeks ago. April and I kind of dived into identity and what it's looking like before surgery and what it could look like after surgery. So I am 22 years old. I live in Connecticut. I am hoping to have the sleeve done hopefully by summer, probably the end of summer, hopefully. And so I found East to West because I was following April, and April just posted about the, what was it? The,
oh, maybe the podcast?
No.
Or the virtual sessions.
Yes.
Yes.
And she's like, come on, join. And I was like, okay. And I was like, maybe we'll see. And I joined, and I was so overwhelmed with the community, and I'm back.
And we're so happy that you're here. So Becca, Jason and I, Becca lovingly refers to us as her VSG mom and dad, and we are so honored to have those titles. Becca is not afraid to ask questions, and we're so thankful that she does, because we've gotten to know each other really well, and things that we would have never thought about, right? Becca brings up, because we're all in different places. I'm 10, maybe I think I might almost be 11 months out from surgery. Jason's, I think, 3 months out.
Almost 3, yeah.
Okay, yep. And Becca's just pre-op. So it's so nice that we can have a conversation, because we're all in different, we're all in different places of our journey. So we appreciate your questions, and we appreciate you, Becca, being so open and honest and willing to just have these conversations with us, because sometimes this stuff is not easy to talk about. So the fact that you're down to do that, we very much appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Totally. So if this is the first time that you're listening or the first time that you're watching, really great news. There are 2 ways that you can take in this podcast. We are now, I think, almost on every single podcast player. We just found out today that we are on iHeartRadio. Of course, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify Podcasts, or you can click the link in our Instagram bio. It will take you to our Anchor homepage, and you can listen from there. We also have a fabulous YouTube channel where you can watch this podcast, which is fabulous, because we all have adorable faces and we talk a lot with our hands and with our faces. So if you want to watch us, we also recommend that you find us there on our YouTube channel. So if you're listening or you're watching, we thank you very much for tuning in, and we thank you for being a part of this community. And kind of how this episode came about was just a conversation that Becca and I had. So if you have a question, or if you want to reach out about something, please do just direct message us. That's pretty much the best way to get a hold of us. That's how Becca connected with all of us. She just direct messaged us and started asking questions. So we love to talk to people in the community. We absolutely respond to everything. So definitely do reach out with your questions, reach out with your concerns, or you just need to connect with somebody who's kind of been through it or is going through something we are here for that. That's the whole reason that we exist. So
exactly. We also would ask for feedback, positive, negative, any feedback, because we're not experts at this. We just saw a hole in the community and decided to try to help fill it with as much information as we can. So your reviews help a ton. Liking, sharing, subscribing, all that information, anything you can do to help further the message. If you got somebody you think would really resonate with an episode, send it to them, let them know where to find us. And like April said, we're very good at answering messages, either she or I, either one. We monitor the page all the time, get all the direct, the notifications that we get messages. So please reach out if you have any questions or concerns. We'd be more than happy to go over stuff with you. And hopefully, just like Becky, you can also be a guest on the podcast.
Absolutely. I think it's like I think it's the favorite thing that we've done so far. We just talked to so many people, and yes. I know Jason and I, every time we do this, we leave going, oh my gosh, I learned so much, or like, oh, this finally clicked for me. So yeah, it's a gift for all of us, for sure.
Definitely.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Today we are talking about what I have coined, this is not a clinical term, but what I have coined the outsider syndrome. And the reason that I came up with that is because sometimes when we publicly tell people that we are going to undergo weight loss surgery, we all of a sudden become an outsider in our own groups. We become an outsider in our family, we become an outsider in our friend group, we become an outsider in our social circle. And that's a really difficult place for us to be, because when we tell people that we're having weight loss surgery, we know why we're doing it. We're doing it to better ourselves and our lives. We're doing it to extend our life. We're doing it to be healthy. We're doing it for all good reasons. And then all of a sudden the people that we tell have this reaction that we are not anticipating or expecting. We're so excited about our decision, yet when we share it with people, we're met with like this, kind of like, well, that's odd, or, well, why would you do that? Or you just need to exercise more, or you just need to, to fill in the blank. So it's a very odd phenomenon that I think a lot of us experience. And while some of us might not experience it at all, that's fantastic. A lot of us, many of us in this community have experienced this. So this is definitely not like a clinical term. Like if you go and Google the outsider syndrome, you're probably not going to get this. So I just want to make clear, this is not clinical. This is just something that popped into my brain when Becca and I were talking about it. It's something that I experienced on a very small level. But in conversations with other people who have been through weight loss surgery, I noticed that this is something that a lot of other people have been through. So we just thought this would be really good to dive into this topic today, because it could be important. So the thing that I will say about the outsider syndrome is that, a lot of times, no matter what we do, either before or after weight loss surgery, whatever we have done, for some reason we don't fit in. Right? So no matter what we try, somebody's going to tell us, well, you should have done that. Right? So we've kind of probably all had this conversation where you're like, hey, I'm thinking about having weight loss surgery. And somebody's like, oh, well, you just need to eat less Jack in the Box, or you just need to work out more, or you need to do keto, or you need to do Atkins, or you should try yoga, or you need to go vegan, right? Everybody's going to offer us something that we should try. And I think in these conversations, I can see us all nodding, right? We're all going, yeah, we've done all those things, right? Like I've tried all of those things with fidelity, and yet nothing has worked. So no matter what we try to do, it's not going to fit into somebody else's, into somebody else's box. And when it comes to weight loss surgery, I think what makes it so off-putting to people is that a lot of people have problems with weight. Right? Weight is just not something that we were the only ones that struggled with. So all of a sudden, when you say publicly, hey, I'm going to do something about my weight, I'm going to have weight loss surgery, all of a sudden, anybody who has struggled with their weight now all of a sudden thinks that is like an instant judgment that you are putting on them, even though you're not, even though you're just saying like, hey, I'm having weight loss surgery. Anybody who has ever struggled with their weight all of a sudden goes, okay, well, wait a minute. I struggle with my weight. And I know that you struggle with your weight because you're fat, right? We can't hide our struggle. We are the physical manifestation of our struggle. So when all of a sudden we say, hey, I'm going to do something about it, now people have to reflect on their own choices. Because if you are brave enough, or if you are going to take the step to have weight loss surgery to do something about your weight, then all of a sudden, these stories that they have been telling themselves about their own weight now all of a sudden become something that they have to acknowledge that maybe I've been lying to myself, because if you can do it, I could also do it. And that creates this tension, this friction between people. Just that one statement, I'm going to have weight loss surgery. It just blows everything up. And a lot of times it can also go against the rules that have been set by your community, or the rules that have been set by your family, right? So no, so all of a sudden, well, you know, if you're going to have weight loss surgery, well, you know, we eat a certain way, or we celebrate a certain way, or we have these certain traditions that are around food. And now you're telling me that you're going to take yourself out of that family, or out of these rules. Nobody likes that, right? Everybody wants everybody in a group to kind of be the same. You are a group because you do things similarly. So then all of a sudden, when that one person goes, I think I want to try something different, right? The group's going, oh, hell no. Right? This is not what we do. These are not our rules. All of a sudden, you are not one of us anymore. And very quickly, it's almost like you just get picked up and you get plopped to the outside of that group. And then all of a sudden, you're looking in at the group that you used to belong to, and you're just going, okay, but all I'm doing is helping myself. So today we're going to dive into this. We're going to dive into the outsider syndrome. We're going to talk about how the three of us have experienced this phenomenon in our own groups. And then we are going to talk about things that we can do to overcome this feeling so that we are not the outsider, because we're not, and how we can encourage our groups, our friends, our family, our social circles to accept what we're doing for our health, and then to support us along the way. Do you guys have anything to add to that, to kind of the quick definition of what it is?
No, you pretty much nailed it.
Becca,
Yeah, you're good.
All right, awesome. I love it. Okay, so how this all came about is a few weeks ago, like I said, Becca and I were on the podcast. We're talking about identity, and I think really I've been trying to think about where this stemmed from, but the question that I think Becca kept coming back to is, you know, I guess I just don't know where to start. I don't even know what my identity is. And I asked her, I said, well, who in your life, who in your social circle, who in your family could you turn to kind of, you know, like model this around? And she had said a couple people, you know, in her family, and it just dawned on me. I just thought, you know, how many people in your family are overweight or obese? You know, are most of your actual examples, do they look like, you know, how you want to look like? And, you know, and her feedback was a little bit mixed. And we really just kind of dove into like, well, you know, what are your family saying? Or, you know, what are your reactions that people are having when you tell them that they have weight loss surgery? And that kind of led to this conversation. So I think if we can, Becca, just start there. So, you know, when I asked you about your family, when I asked you about who in your family, you know, is living how you want to live, you know, what was your response to that?
So to kind of go back, you asked about like, the original question was who in your family like is obese? Is everybody in your family obese? And my answer was yes. My parents, my brother, I have some aunt and uncles that are, but I also have aunt and uncles who aren't. So it's like kind of like you said, that kind of like weird mix. But the main person that I like thought of, well, there's actually two. It's my aunt and uncle. It's my mom's brother and his wife. And they are like the living, like eat, sleep, breathe, healthy kind of people that I envision when I think of somebody who's living the life that I would love to live.
And what was their reaction when you told them you were having weight loss surgery?
So I told my aunt, and my aunt has always like kind of like been on my back like with my weight, and she's always been like, yeah, like you kind of have to make some better choices and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, like whatever, like, you know. And that was when I was younger, and when I told her, I was actually in the hospital for my first nutrition appointment, and I was like, yeah, like I gotta go like really quick, but I'm having weight loss surgery. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah. She was so supportive. Like she was like, so I ended up telling a set of aunt and uncles and another set, so them, and that was it. And the first set, they're obese, like they're not skinny. They've got some chunk to them. They were kind of like receptive, and that's where I got that negative kind of like feedback back from them. And my uncle was like, oh no, like no, how, why, all like 100 million questions. Whereas my other aunt, the healthy one, was like, yeah, like tell me all about it. Like what do you have to do? How long are you going to be out of work? How much this, how much that? And she was so supportive. where it was just like kind of mind-blowing how I told two separate people with two different lifestyles, who one supported me and one was like, yeah, well, I'll just pray that you make the right decision. Well, my decision was already made.
Yes. And it's interesting, and we'll kind of get into this, but it's normal for people to wonder and to have questions about weight loss surgery. You say I'm having weight loss surgery. It's almost never talked about in our society, right? And then when it is, the questions come, right? But there's a positive way, or there's a supportive way to ask questions, and then there's a not supportive way to ask questions, right? So all of a sudden, when the questions start coming, very quickly you can tell, like, oh, is this person jazzed yet scared, or is this person like, oh no, like you're questioning and just not supportive. And it always fascinates me who's asking those questions and kind of what their situation is in life, because it's normal for people to have questions, but for us to be successful, we need people to ask questions and be supportive. We need not ask questions and be like, well, I can't help you, and that just seems ridiculous, and kind of like you're on your own.
Well, and when you get into a situation like that, it really, like you had kind of alluded to in the breakdown of what the outsider syndrome is the fact that her healthier aunt and uncle didn't have an issue with it. Like they're excited to see her actually doing something to get healthier, because there's no self-reflection involved in that, because they're already living the life they want to be living. So you get somebody that's not living that healthy life, and they're all of a sudden they're faced with the fact that, oh shit, what am I doing? If she's doing this to better herself, I'm not doing anything to better myself, yet I'm in the same situation, or I'm bigger, or I'm smaller, or whatever it is. You have to then look at yourself, have a little bit of self-reflection in there, and think, well, damn, if she's doing something about hers, then I should probably be doing something about mine. But now it looks like she's proactive and I'm just sitting here like I don't care. And so that it automatically throws a negative connotation onto it, when it really shouldn't. When in reality, like she had said, her decision was already made. And the fact that they're trying to kind of sabotage it from the, after the fact, it's like, well, don't try to raise doubt now, because I'm already doing what I want to do. Like, this is my decision that's made. I'm an adult and I'm going to do it. Like the fact of just bringing in that negativity is just not, it's just not going to be something that's going to assist you in support going down the road after you're, when you hit the post-op stage.
Absolutely. It's, Jason, you and I have often talked about this. We've had doctors tell us before we made the commitment to have weight loss surgery, like, maybe you should have weight loss surgery. And you and I both reacted the same way. We're like, oh, hell no. Like, what? Me? No, I'm not that big. Like, this is not a problem. I'm just going to eat more cornflakes and do some more sit-ups, and poof, I'm going to be 150 pounds.
Be like, so you're saying I need a new doctor. Got it.
Exactly, right? So we all know what that feeling is like. We all have internally had that gut check from somebody else. So I think, we have been on both sides of the outsider syndrome, right? We have been that person that's like, oh no, like, no, you're not doing this. Like, now you're trying to make me an outsider. Oh no. And then we have also been the outsider, because, Jason, you and I have kind of been through this, and we've gotten this pushback. And Becca, you are now seeing kind of what this pushback is, right? By saying that we're having weight loss surgery, we have broken some unwritten rules in our circles. And when we break those rules, the group wants to kick you out, right? Because the only reason that you're a group is because you do and think and act the same way. That's what a group is. So when all of a sudden you make decisions that go against those group rules, right? People just, nope, you are not welcome. And that's devastating, because this is our family, these are our friends, and we're expecting a different reaction when we tell them, what we're going to do, and the reaction is not what we're expecting. And that's devastating. It really means that some relationships are shifting pretty much instantly, and nobody knows where it's going to land, because it's such a huge shift. So when you told other people in your family, Becca, what were their reactions?
So I actually stopped telling people after that.
Oh my God, seriously?
Yeah. So what happened? So my mom and I and like my immediate family, like my boyfriend, my parents, my brother, like we knew I was gonna have surgery. Like they knew I was going like to appointments and stuff like that. And once I got my first nutrition appointment, my mom was like, you could start telling people. And I'm like, okay. And so like I have a huge family. I'm Italian. And for me to just tell 2 sets of aunt and uncles, that's like not even a quarter of like my family. So like I don't know why I haven't told everybody either yet. Like I don't know if like I'm just scared of more of that pushback or like whatnot, because like as you were talking I was thinking about how like I told my friends, and I have a skinny friend and I have another fat friend, like, and she's smaller than me, but she was like, are you serious? Like you're gonna have surgery? Like that's what you're gonna do? And I was like, well, yeah. Like I was like, I'm just kind of like sick and tired of being like fat, and like I'm over this. I need to do this for me. And she's like, okay, like, well, I'll support you. And whereas like my skinny friend was like, do it, like whatever you want to do, like I'm here to support you and stuff like that. And it's just like really funny how like again like that 2 separate lifestyle, like 2 people that are different lifestyles are just saying 2 different things.
And I have an absolute shot in the dark cracker jack psychologist analysis of that. I swear to God that the reason that those responses tend to differ is I can only go back to my personal experience. When I was before surgery, when I was fat, 90% of my brain was taken up with food. I did not have the capacity to think about all of these things that I now have the capacity to think of. And I swear to God, it has something to do with that, right? Because when you are obese, when you are overweight, so much of your thinking brain is dedicated to food. It just is, because it's your addiction. It's how you are wired now. Your life revolves around food. And when all of these other things come at you, it's just overwhelming. You're just like, oh my God, there's so much here that I have to think about. I just can't. And again, like Jason, like what you said earlier, and what the outsider syndrome is that when I was obese, I was telling myself stories about why I couldn't lose the weight. And it was more comforting to tell me those stories because it gave me an out to continue to be fat, right? Well, there's all of these reasons, but I'm active and I eat salads and I don't sneak food and I don't go to fast food, all these stories that I was telling myself, but they were not true. And I was allowing myself to believe them because it gave me permission to just stay fat. Because I knew, and I think we all know deep down, how much work it takes to actually live as a thin person. And I believe that surgery is so powerful because it gives our brains and our body a break from food for a couple solid months. I mean, there is a clean physical break. And in that break time, your brain gets to readjust to the reality of life. And all of a sudden you realize that all these stories that I've been telling myself about my weight and my eating and my activity were straight up lies. And it gives you this time to rectify it. And then you get all this brain capacity back because you're not thinking about food. Like, I mean, Jason, it's like for the first 2 months, you want absolutely you want nothing to do with food. I remember telling my husband, I don't give a shit if you starve because I'm done with food forever. Like, you are on your own. Our marriage is dissolved in terms of me preparing food for you. Like, good luck, bro. Because I'm only eating water from this point forward.
So water and protein shakes. I do nothing else. I don't care. Like, I've had 3 protein shakes, a peanut butter ball, and some water. And so whatever happens on your side of the fence, that's on you.
It's just such an odd feeling, but that break allows your brain to finally start thinking about things. I think in a food-free environment. And I swear, I told my surgeon and I told Wendy, my therapist, I said, I finally get how different fat people are from thin people in terms of just their ability to think. It has nothing to do with who they are as a person. It has nothing to do with any of that. But it's like, I finally get now why my healthy weight friends are healthy weight, because they're not thinking about food 90% of the day. And it's like, oh my God, they have so much more capacity to think about other things and to do other things. So to make this very long thing wrap up, I think, you know, I just think that people who are thinner, they have more capacity to understand and to empathize and to support and to get it, because the flip side is true for them. They have no idea what you're going through. They absolutely don't, because their brain has never been in that position. So it's not surprising to me that your overweight friends and family react different than your normal or your healthy weight people, right? Whatever that happens to be. So, you know, I'm going to push you on that question again, right? Why have you not told more people? Because you're jazzed about it. When you talk to Jason and I about it, you're like super stoked about it. When you're on your Instagram page, you're super stoked about it, but yet you haven't told people.
I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense just for the fact, if nothing else, that, I mean, if you have this large family, you're Italian, so of course you're close to your family. That's just kind of how that works. And I can understand being let down by the odd, off-putting reaction you got. And you don't want that same disappointment to come from other family members. If you can harness that down to one little corner of the entire picture of the family, that makes perfect sense why you wouldn't want to continue to tell people. Keep it close to the vest, and just for the people that you have the positive reactions with. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the only other, like, when I think about like my family, like, I think a lot of them will be supportive, but there's also like family that I'm not close to, and though, like, that set of aunt and uncles that I told, those were like the closest that I feel personally to. Like, the only other person that I could possibly think of like telling would be, mind you, like the aunt and uncle, and the whole other side of the family that I'm thinking about is on my mom's side, and I haven't even got to my dad's side yet. Would be my grandfather. Like, that's the only person that I would tell. But like, also, I'm kind of at the point where like I don't want to tell him, because like I know like he's older and he might forget and stuff like that, and like I kind of just don't want to put that stress on him to like remember like why up until that day that I go into surgery that I'm getting surgery done, and why I was getting surgery done and all that. So I think that's kind of why too. But then also it comes down to like my father's side, where I'm not close to them at all. I don't talk to them. Like, I avoid them at all costs. And the other part of my mom's family, I don't talk to them either because of specific reasons and stuff like that. So like, I don't have a duty to tell them anything personal about my life either way, because they don't know me anyways. So it doesn't really matter. So yeah.
Well, and empty judgment from people that you're not close to doesn't do anything to help. Or, I mean, it can actually hurt if you're really getting it from all sides. Some negativity, it's going to creep in a little bit. But I know, like, from my experience myself, the older people that I told in my life, I got not disappointment or any kind of pushback or negativity. They just don't understand. Like, if the older they are, the more they remember like the horror stories when the gastric bypass first started and lap bands first started. So a lot of people were dying in the late 80s, early 90s from gastric bypass because it was so new and they didn't really have it all figured out yet. And so that's what they remember. They flash back to, they hear weight loss surgery, gastric bypass, people die. That's their connection. And then you have to talk them off the ledge because they're like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And you're like, calm down, ease up. Like, it's been, 30, 40 years, like, things have come a long way. So you got to go through that portion of it. Then you got to let them know, like, they don't even do the lap band anymore, so that's not even part of it. You explain to them kind of how it's going to go down. And then, like my father, who's 73 years old, I still, to this day, I'll get a call from him and he'll be like, I had my surgery March 11th, and he'll call, everything going okay? Like, yeah, you're a couple months late on that. If something bad was going to happen, it would have happened on March 11th or, directly following. Like, I'm so far out now that if something happened, it wouldn't even be related to that. So we're good. Like, we're all straight. Like, I promise everything's good. Like, please calm down. So, he's finally getting to the point now where it's just like weight checkups and how I'm doing and make sure everything's still going like it's supposed to go. So, but as far as pushback goes, like I was the most unhealthy person that I knew, like period to that point. I outweighed everybody I knew by probably 200 pounds. Like I was just the mess of everyone. So I got nothing. I was lucky enough to have nothing but support with a few questions sprinkled here and there to make sure, because I have a couple of friends within my extended, outer line group that have had the surgery, and so their spouses and everybody kind of know, like everybody's familiar enough with it that when I kind of brought it up, everybody was more relieved than anything because they all know, like my friend group is close enough that they all know my blood pressure struggles and my issues with my weight have caused me an everyday normal life. And so without them really bringing it up, because they kind of already knew that I was disappointed in myself enough not to drag that out on me, but they all kind of breathed a sigh of relief when they knew that I was doing something about it, and have been really behind me in all the progress that I've made so far. So I myself was lucky enough to not only not have to deal with a lot of the negativity, but to also have the boost of support behind me. So, but I do know that there are a lot of people that face, like April and I had talked about, one of the reasons we started this was to dispel the stigma behind weight loss surgery, so that future patients such as yourself don't have to go through this with friends and family members and friends groups and things like that. Because I honestly, it's aggravating to me to hear anybody be prejudged on something that's going to make them feel better, because I know how I felt before surgery and I know how I feel now. And if anybody has had a problem with me going from what I was to what I am today, I don't need those people in my life anyway, because I was a miserable human being because I felt awful. And today I wouldn't have been able to do a quarter of the stuff that I did today already before I jumped on this podcast. Like I was telling you guys a little bit ago, like that stuff wasn't even like I'd get winded. And I've said this before, I'd get winded walking to the car from the house, and that's like 20 steps. Mm-hmm. And today I've probably already I think I've got 8,000 steps in today already. And it's just past noon, it's like 1:30 on the East Coast. So that, to me, that would never have happened. Like it would take me a week to get 8,000 steps before surgery. And now I'm doing it in a half a day. So, I mean, it's not, those are the types of people that I would want to distance myself from anyway, if it's possible. If not, I would have a whole lot of education sessions coming up, because you're going to sit down and you're going to learn. We're dispelling the ignorance today, because going forward, you're going to get on the train. That's how it's going to happen going from today on.
I love it. Yes. And it is so frustrating to know that people can be treated as outsiders when they make the decision to have weight loss surgery, because Jason, you and I are now on the other side of it. And we know how fantastic we feel. We know how amazing our lives are now. Why would anybody want to stop us or make us feel bad for doing something that has so greatly benefited our lives? It's asinine. It makes no sense. But that just speaks to the power of groupthink, the power of group mentality, and the power that people can have over our lives and over our decisions. Because deep down, we all want to be a part of a group. We all want to be on the inside. And all of a sudden, when we make a decision or when we say something that puts us on the outside, our natural inclination is to do whatever we can to get back into that group, because that's safe. That's why we were fat for so long. That was safe. That was comforting. That was what we knew. And the group is going to try to pull us back in because they don't like to see change, right? This is the group. These are the rules. This is how we do things. And when all of a sudden you go to the group and you say, hey, I'm doing something different. Oh, hell no. No, you are not. And if you're going to continue with that, we're going to kick you out to the outside and you are going to stay there. And that's devastating, because these are the people who we thought loved and supported us no matter what. And then all of a sudden, when you tell them something and you get this visceral reaction that you're not expecting, it's gut-wrenching. And Becca, you said something earlier, and I just want to reiterate, and I don't think you said these exact words, but you are absolutely correct. You don't owe anybody anything. You don't have to tell a single soul what you are doing. So I definitely don't want to make it seem like I'm sitting here saying, well, everybody needs to know what you're doing. No, it's your business, and you are allowed to do whatever you want to do. What I want to make sure that people know is that if you do choose to tell people, and all of a sudden you find yourself feeling like the outsider, there are some things that you can do to mitigate those effects. So if you're not comfortable telling people, you don't have to tell a single person. And I think that you know, after you've already told some family members, you're kind of seeing the pushback, and you're seeing the power that your statement is making on other people and the stories that other people are telling themselves, because we've all told each other stories. And when we get to the point in our lives, as the three of us have, where we know we have tried everything with fidelity, we have done things honestly, we have seen things through, and we cannot lose the weight, we know that this is what we have to do. And I really think that once you get to that point, even though what people say are going to be hurtful and you're going to feel like an outsider, it's going to shift your relationships, none of that matters as much as you living a healthy life, right? So when you've got to that point, it hurts, it's painful, I don't like this feeling, but you're not willing to go back. You've kind of broken, you've broken the grip of the group, and you're saying, you know what, if this is what the group is about, I don't want anything to do with it. Just like what Jason said, right? Either you're going to get on the train or the train's leaving, but this is your choice now. And that's a really powerful place to be. So I think that while, Becky, you're feeling pain and hurt, you also are in a great position of power. All of a sudden you have some personal power that you maybe have never felt before in your life. And you can use that power to propel you forward into this next stage, this next chapter of your life. And it's going to feel really odd, because I know for me, I didn't have a lot of power. Even though I portrayed like I did, I didn't feel like I did. And all of a sudden, when you get that little piece of it, you kind of don't know what to do with it. And that's okay. All you have to do is just keep it close and just use that as your fuel. Refill your tank when these feelings come. That is the fuel that's going to get you through to surgery.
Well, and the biggest thing about that you'll see is you'll notice a lot of people when they're pre-op or they're going through the stages, or they're just freshly post-op. You'll see a lot of people using the tagline, taking their life back, starting a new chapter, all those things. That, like April said, the power that comes from that is you reinventing yourself to this new person that you're going to now be, and you're going to feel different. Things are going to look different, smell different, taste different. Like there's going to be changes that happen. And so it's only natural to have changes in some of those relationships as well, whether it be, and those can be a vast difference, of things that could change for the positive and maybe possibly some negative, but it's all in how you approach it as to kind of how that works for you. And the biggest thing about kind of whether or not you decide to tell people kind of how you approach that situation is, as long as you're finding somebody, as long as you find your support somewhere, that's all that matters. And the sad thing is there are a lot of people that have to look outside to basically strangers to get that support. But right, exactly. And our situation was exactly how that worked. But that's also why April and I started this whole thing, was because we saw that happening again and again. Going back to the stigma of telling people about the surgery, is if you can't turn to your closest family and friends to tell them what's going on without getting a little bit of kickback, you're going to have, you're one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to allow them to talk you out of having the surgery, which is the worst thing that can possibly happen, or you can find your support elsewhere and turn it into another reason as to why you're doing what you're doing. And that's the biggest part of it, is never, like, we alluded to in the beginning of the show, my biggest thing is to find and hold on to your why. Your why is why you're having the surgery, why you decided to make the change, why now. Hold on to that why for dear life, because you cannot ever let somebody else take away your why, because they're never going to understand it the way you do. You know you better than anybody else. You've got your best interest at heart above anybody else. So find your, hold on to your why, find your support wherever that may be, and realize that, like you had said in the beginning, Becca, you've already made your decision. So you don't need to be talked out of it going, this is what's going to happen, and I'd really like support on it. And if you can't, then I'm going to find it elsewhere.
Right. And I think, like going back to my uncle, and like his huge reason was, well, for one, like I'm 22. You don't really think of like 22-year-olds, especially like in my family, going out and having weight loss surgery. So I think it's like him just saying, well, you're young, and I've tried to have surgery done, and I went through all the stuff and I was denied. How did you get approved? And I was like, I showed up and here I am. I was like, I don't know, maybe it's you. I was like, but it's working for me. And I was like, that's what's going to happen. And like April said, like she was talking about how I'm open on Instagram about it and stuff like that. But I also think it's because of all the support that I've gotten thus far, and the fact that everybody in the community understands where my head is. And like no one, regardless of who I tell, my mom, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, whatever, they don't understand. Like, and that's why I made my Instagram, to find support and find a community and reach out. And like, I mean, yeah, like I can go to my fat friends and say, yeah, like, you see my back, like I hate that. And they'll be like, yeah, well, like my back's not that bad, so like I really don't care. So it's like, it's someone who understands. It's like, it's past support. It's like there's a support group who doesn't get it, and there's a support group who does get it, and that's the difference.
Well, and the age thing, to me, that's what's funny, is like, well, you're 22. Well, what do you think? I'm not going to care that I'm fat at 25? Like, it's not going to bother me that I'm fat at 30? Like, all it's going to do, like, that makes no sense to me. It's not like you told them, like, yeah, I'm going to go have a hysterectomy so I won't be able to have kids. You're going to change your mind on something. That's something that you go, well, you're only 22. Maybe you'll change your mind later and want to, have some kids. I totally get that part. That's something you may want to throw an age at. Not the fact that I'm thinking about having weight loss surgery, because I promise you now, had I had it 5 years ago, the first time somebody brought it up to me, I would be in such a better place right now. Like, I'm not doing bad now, but I would be in such a better place now, because I would be, so much farther ahead of my recovery. But at the same time, you got the same token that says maybe I wasn't ready to have it back then, and the results may not have been the same. So while it kind of sucks for myself that I waited as long as I did, I'm also possibly having the success that I'm having at it because my headspace is way different. So the fact that you resigned yourself at 22 to make this change, you've got the whole rest of your life to live without having to go through any of the problems that a lot of us did by having it later in life. So if nothing else, I applaud the fact that you're doing it at 22 way more than I would try to discourage you from doing
Oh, absolutely. When you told me that your uncle said that for the first time, I was like, okay, cool. So then people are going to say that at every age until you get to the point where that all of a sudden it's going to be, well, you're too old for that. Well, you should have been doing this all along.
Right. Should have done that 10 years ago.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it is another way that the group is keeping you in the group. It's another way for them to push you to not break the rules, to not deal with stuff, because people don't want to get thrown in their faces the fact that they could be doing something about it just like you're doing something about it. That's really what it comes down to. And instead of people just taking a moment to reflect on their own insecurities and support you, they would much rather keep you down so that they don't have an excuse for not getting up themselves. And that's bullshit. That's total bullshit, right? I think, the outsider mentality can look a lot of different ways. And I want to kind of go over just what this can look like, because if you're listening to this and you're going, well, I don't know if this has happened to me. It probably has. You just haven't had a way to define it, right? So this outsider syndrome can appear in a lot of different ways. It can be snide comments or memes or snide or not helpful conversations about weight loss surgery. It can be over the top or constant questions about the validity of your decision, right? So people having questions is very normal. Weight loss surgery is major. It is a surgery. There is no joke about it. I mean, you risk death. That is the honest truth with this. So, but there's a difference between people having genuine caring questions and people having questions that are negative and are founded in fear and are founded in keeping you down. So it's normal to have questions, but these constant nitpicking questions, no, that's part of this. Being told that you're taking the easy way out, or that you should just fill in the blank to lose weight, right? That's this outsider syndrome. Just straight up bullying. Just people bullying you about your decision. When people attempt to talk you out of having it, right? Even if it's like a flowery conversation, but it's like, oh, but oh no, you're too young, or why are you doing that at 22? Gee, because I'm tired of being this way, right? So all of these are things that are trying to sideline you from making a change, right? It's anytime you're feeling disconnected. It's anytime that you're feeling like you're being uninvited or you're being excluded from the group or from the conversation. This is the outsider syndrome. Like Jason, like you, when I told my friends and family, it was very supportive. I really didn't get a lot of pushback. I did get constant questions from my grandparents, who were older and they just don't understand. And I also had a friend that's very analytical, and her questions were very, to the point. And it came from a place of love. I'm fearful for you. I understand this is surgery. I don't want to lose you. I need to understand more. I absolutely get that.
Well, and you can tell the difference between educational questions and questions of somebody just wanting to basically they're bringing it to you in a way that you will question yourself, not answer their questions. They want you to start thinking about it. They're kind of slipping a little doubt in there, here and there. And that's different than somebody that's actually asking educational questions because they want to know, like they want to learn, they're interested, they want to make sure that they have a full grasp of what you're going to go through. Because as April said, it is major. It's a serious, procedure. It's not something that can be taken lightly. It's not an outpatient drive by and get a mole taken off. Like, we're not doing that. Like, it's a serious situation.
No.
So, but being able to educate as many people as you can, that's completely understandable. And you may have to do that because there's going to be a lot of, if you have a large family, you have a lot of people, more than likely you're going to have to educate people, and you'll answer the same question 3 or 4 times, and you'll get your little spiel down. And it's best to kind of have, like April says, a canned response that you can just kind of be like, and blah, because that way you've hit all their little points and answered. Sometimes you can answer further questions and some of the things that you're going to say, so you don't have to sit there like you're at a damn press conference for an hour and a half. Like, so I mean, it comes in all ways, shapes, and forms. It's just you have to only really pay attention and put energy into the positive side of it and not draw from the negative side of it. If it's really going to be helpful to you.
Yes. And what I really found too is that if I could lower my own defenses, right, when people ask me questions, because obviously, right, like I was ready for a fight when people were coming with these questions. And if I could just calm yourself, child, and just listen to what people are saying, they asked some really great questions that it was like, oh shit, I probably need to know that, right? So then I'm writing down their questions, and every time I'd be with my surgeon with a nutritionist, I'd be like, oh, excuse me, let me bust out my book here. Let's see, my mother would like to know, my friend would like to know. But it was so helpful because it was like, oh yeah, duh, April, you probably should know these things. Like that you're told, oh, I'm gonna have surgery, and I know nothing about it. Yeah, you girl, you need to get yourself educated. The 2 places that I got pushback that I was surprised at is when I told my sister and I are thick as thieves, right? And when I told her I was having weight loss surgery, she was like, oh, really? Ugh. I mean, it was just kind of like, what? Like, I've been fat forever. Like, you've seen me go through what I've gone through, when I have been so obese. And her reaction was just very much, she was like, well, I support you. And she just stepped back. And for me, it was a little bit surprising, but at the same time, if my sister came to me and said, hey, I'm doing something major, I probably would do the same thing. I would just be like, okay, well, obviously, you, but I'm so scared that something is going to go wrong. I don't think I can deal with that. Right. So her reaction really helped me check myself in my relationship with her. And if she needed to step back from what I was doing, then she needed to do that for our relationship and for her. And that was a great check for me. The other place that I got pushback that I was just like, are you kidding me? Is I've been in Weight Watchers for 10 years off and on. And somebody who I was very close with in Weight Watchers, they were a Weight Watchers acquaintance. She posted a meme in the Weight Watchers group about weight loss surgery. And it was like this split screen, and it was like two windows, right? So like two, like imagine a bank, right? And one was like, oh, lifestyle change and healthy eating, and nobody was lined up there. And then the other window was weight loss surgery, and everybody was lined up there. And it was like, oh, the easy way out. And she posted that meme, and I was like, oh, hell no. And this was after I had had surgery. She posted this in the Weight Watchers group, and I went off. I mean, I was very kind. And when I say I went off, I mean, it was like, you know, how the queen goes off type of thing. But I wrote her this like multiple paragraph response. Like, I can't believe that this is how you think. There are so many people in the Weight Watchers community who've been through weight loss surgery. You know me, you know how dedicated I was and am to weight. I mean, I was just like, what the fuck? I was so pissed. But it just made me realize how convoluted and how misrepresented weight loss surgery is in the world and in the community. And it really solidified my decision to be as public as I possibly could with my weight loss surgery journey. Because if my friend thought that, and this person knew that I had been through weight loss surgery, and I was just like, you are so, the world is so off with what weight loss surgery is and the benefits. And I was just like, oh, hell no. Nope. This is my life's mission now, because that's bullshit. That would be the type of thing that somebody wants to put out to the world. And that is the outsider syndrome. That's her trying to keep people in the Weight Watchers group, or to keep people, you know, thinking this story that all you have to do to lose weight is eat healthy. That's not true. When people like me get to the point of the weight that I was at, Weight Watchers is not going to do it for me. It just isn't. My genetics are involved now. My biology is involved now. Addiction is involved now. I can't eat the points and lose the weight, right? Because my brain is not going to allow me to do that. So that anger at that one interaction really propelled me into this universe. And as you said, Becca, and as Jason and I talk about all the time, I did not know the weight loss community existed on Instagram. Thank God I found it, because that community is amazing. Like you said, Becca, it's so nice to interact with people or to ask questions and not have to explain any of the backstory, because everybody already knows it. You don't have to go through, like Jason, what you were talking about, like you don't have to give them the backstory. This isn't a press conference every time I put something out there, because everybody gets it. Everybody empathizes already. Everybody has been there. I can just get straight to the root of my question, my concern, my wondering. Whereas if I say that to people who've not been through it, even if they want to support me, which they do, I still have to go through I have to set it up. And that's exhausting, right? Setting up this conversation every single time you want to have it is exhausting. Instead of just going to the community that's already been there, done that, I don't have to worry about that. I can just deep dive into it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And the thing about the Weight Watchers deal is, if one thing worked for every single person the exact same way, there would be one diet only, and everybody would stick to it, and everybody would be skinny. And if that's like saying, all you got to do is cardio, so just get to walking and you'll lose the weight. Well, then why are there fat male men? There would be no fat male men if cardio alone made everybody skinny. Like, don't give me that shit. I know that's not the case. Mm-hmm. Just like there's fat people at salad bars. Like, you can't just eat salad all the time and be skinny. Like, no. If one thing worked for every single person, there wouldn't be fad diets. There wouldn't be Atkins. There wouldn't be Weight Watchers. Like, it's the fact that people get so narrow-minded on this situation is just it's beyond.
Oh, dude, my favorite meme of all time is like, it's what I think it's like a Cam Newton meme, and he was like dressed up or something like that. And it was basically like, oh, really? Like, I just need to go to the gym. Then why are you looking like a box of cornflakes and you still working out every day? It's like, Yes, thank you. This is just freaking ridiculous. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I don't understand. Like that people get so narrow-minded on this stuff. Like it's the one thing will not work for every single person. Everybody's different. And same thing, like you have people that succeed and fail in the weight loss surgery game. Like this is not like for people to say this is the easy way out. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because being through it, even the easy time that I've had compared to a lot of other people with the surgery and the after and all that, like easy my ass. Like y'all missed the part where I found the easy part because it hasn't been easy for me now. I mean, as easy as it's been, it hasn't been easy for me compared to if I could just show up at the gym, bang out a couple reps, and then head to the house. Like, cool, that's way better because then I could still, to me that's funny.
No, the easiest part about weight loss surgery is not even thinking about it. I mean, it's easy. It was easy to remain the same. As devastating and unhealthy and physically painful as that was, staying the same was much easier than making the decision to have weight loss surgery. And the woman who inspired me to have weight loss surgery told me over and over again, the hardest part of weight loss surgery is before. And I absolutely agree with that because what you're going through now, Becca, are the questions and the second guessing and jumping through all the ridiculous hoops of the nutritionist appointments and blood work and surgeon's appointments. I mean, all that is designed for you to cop out. It is designed for you to say, nope, I'm not going to do this. Because if everybody had weight loss surgery, it would be devastating for the healthcare industry because people would all of a sudden be healthy. But, I mean, it's a lot of work to take somebody through surgery. So they're purposely trying to weed out the people who are not mentally and physically strong enough to go through it. And then after you have the surgery, it is hard work, but it is not as hard as remaining the same. And I mean, again, right, this outsider syndrome is working really hard to keep you the same. And doing what you're doing now is the hard work.
Well, and that's the, kind of the thing about the outsider part of it. That is not specific to a friend group, not specific to a family group. That's everybody. That could be your job. That could be your friends, family. That could be, coworkers. That could be a lot. There's a lot of people involved in that group of people that you could possibly receive pushback from or feel like an outsider in. Like the Weight Watchers group, that's part of it. So really, really leaning on the positive side of the support group is what's going to help you the best in this whole situation. So whatever that is, you find that support and hold on to it because we're going to be here for you when it comes down to that, way more than anybody else is. You'll find that out later on in life.
Absolutely. So that's a really great segue. So now that we have a very clear understanding of what the outsider syndrome is, let's talk about what we can do to mitigate it, right? So not necessarily to leave it, but once we experience this feeling, what can we do to move away from it, right? So clearly we need to move through it. We can't just avoid it. So we're going to have to walk through it, but we can walk through it in a way that helps everybody, including ourselves. So what we talked about earlier, the best thing that we can recommend is like what Jason said, keep your why front and center. If you always have that in the forefront of your brain, if that's always at the forefront of what you speak and what you think, it's going to help mitigate, it's going to help deflect all of these things that are coming in at you to try to pull you back to that group. And like what Jason said earlier, I'm a huge fan of this. Arm yourself with a canned statement. So what are you going to tell people every single time when these people come at you with, well, why, and this and that, and all these other things? Have a statement, have a sentence or two that you write out and you practice. And you say that every single time somebody comes at you. I have my canned statement. I should have unearthed it for this episode. I don't remember what it was, but it was very much, here's why I'm doing it. Here's why this is the best choice for me. It wasn't a statement that invited conversation. It was a statement that ended conversations because that's what I needed at the moment. So really think about, do you want to invite conversation into your weight loss surgery journey, or do you just want to let people know this is what it is, this is not open for discussion, right? I think that you can have two different statements based on where you want that conversation to go. But arming yourself with that statement that you know frontwards and backwards and you will bust out every single time somebody comes at you is super helpful. Super, super helpful. I am also a big fan of just having honest conversations. I lived my life with half-truths for so long that I am now to the point where the only conversation that's worth having is an honest conversation, even if it's brutal, even if it's going to be difficult. I've just found that the more honest I am, the more that I use the magic statement, and that is, you know, well, when you say this or when you do this, I feel this way. You know, people can't argue with your feelings. All that people can do is just acknowledge them. So having those honest conversations with people, letting people know how it makes you feel when they say certain things to you can be really powerful, because it puts the responsibility has never been yours, but it very clearly puts the issue back with them, right? They're trying to hand you all this stuff because they want you to carry it. They want you to be a part of the group. And by you saying, you know, when you say those things, it makes me feel disrespected, or it makes me feel unheard, or it hurts my feelings. Oh, you're literally taking this ball of crap that they've given you and you're saying, here you go. This is not me, this is you. And that's where that belongs. And people can't argue with that. Honest conversation, those magic statements, and just saying, just the straight up truth is the absolute best thing that you can say in a conversation. The other thing that we recommend is connect with people who are doing and living the way that you want to live, which you have absolutely done on Instagram in those communities. You have sought out people who are living the life that you want to live, or are living the way that you want to live. And you're emulating them. You're seeing what they're doing. You're taking those notes. You're making changes in your own life right now to live the way that those people are living. And that's super powerful. Where, like what Jason said, where this gets to be a little bit hard is that if you look around in your circles, in your groups, and you don't see that, it can be hard. And you and I kind of talked about that, right? There are some people, there's some people in your life who are living the way that you want to live. And then there's people who are not. So how have you reached out to people in your life, Becca, who are living the way that you want to live? And have you had these conversations? And, you know, are you really emulating what they're doing?
I actually haven't. I'm kind of just stuck still, like with that kind of like not knowing like how to start those conversations at the same time. So yeah, I'm just kind of like taking it as it is right now.
Yep, gotcha.
And the thing about that, sorry, April, not to cut you off, but
Nope.
The thing about that, to me, what I'm thinking about it is just because you may have a group of people that don't really view what you're doing the same as you do, or with the same importance, or the same, they may not really agree with what's going on. That doesn't mean that you necessarily are going to alter that friendship, so to speak, or your place in that kind of area. What what it's going to mean is that that's just something that you guys don't talk about. It's something you're going to continue living your life to your best. You're going to keep doing your thing. You're going to lose the weight. You're going to do whatever. You can still be with those people in the same capacity. You're just going to be a different person while you're doing it.
Absolutely. And I think if you would like to talk to, if there's somebody in your life that you want to talk to about this and you just don't know how to start that conversation, what I have found is very helpful in my life is if I know I need to talk to somebody about something and it's serious, or it's going to be, a crucial conversation, right? It's going to be a conversation that has a lot of meaning or depth to me. No joke, I will ask people, hey, I need to talk to you about something, or I want to talk to you about my weight loss surgery. When can we have that conversation? So I'm not springing a conversation on somebody, right? I'm not like plotting when's the best time to have this conversation. I'm literally scheduling a time in my life to have a conversation with somebody. And it's a trick that I learned from my very dear friend who recently passed. It has been phenomenal, because we both are going into the conversation under the same understanding that we're going to talk about this one very specific thing. We're not going to talk about anything else. It might be a little bit uncomfortable, but at least we're both going into the conversation not surprised. And I can't tell you how powerful those conversations have been, because I don't need to worry about anything else getting brought up, or when the conversation perhaps steers in a direction that is off topic, I can say, you know, that's off topic, or, you know, that's not related to this. I really only want to talk about this thing. And if the person is veering the conversation, continues to veer the conversation away from what I want to talk about, then the conversation has entered a place where they're not comfortable anymore. And I have the power to say, you know what, I can tell that this is going in a different direction, or you know, we're off topic. So I think we need to end the conversation, but I would like to revisit this. And then you're just done. Then you're walking away. It can be a very powerful tool and a very safe way for you to engage in a meaningful conversation with somebody that you want to. And it takes the pressure off, right? There's no surprises. There's no like gotcha moments. It's just, hey, I really want to talk to you about this. When can we have this conversation? And
well, it allows them to get in the right headspace also. Yeah. And it kind of gives them, you're splitting power in that situation, because not only do you have the power to say, you know, to kind of navigate the conversation, but at the same time, you're giving them partial power to be able to say when they're ready to receive the information that you want to give them. So it's kind of an equal, you know, an equality thing when it comes to that side of things, that they're going to feel like that's a really good way to get buy-in for somebody that may otherwise not have bought into what you were trying to tell them.
Yep, absolutely. I cannot recommend that method more. I've probably used it 1,000 times in my life now, and I have not, to this day, I have never had a conversation that's been set up like that was not meaningful and didn't help me move forward. I mean, and a lot of these times, this might sound crazy, but I have to have these types of conversations with my parents. You know, I need to go to them and I say, hey, I need to talk to you about this. This is going to be serious. When can we talk about it? And they're not easy conversations. A lot of them have been difficult, but we've all left that conversation, because it clearly needed to happen, with a new understanding. We're on the same page, or we're not on the same page and we know where we're off. And then we've got a clear plan to move forward. It's just, yeah, it's a great thing. And if it makes you nervous, reach out to somebody that you trust and practice these conversations. You can practice. That's the glorious thing about these types of conversations, is that with anything in life, you can practice this. And there are people out there who are willing to do that, right? So if you went to a friend, or if you went to somebody who you trust and you say, man, I really want to talk to my mom about this. Will you help me practice this conversation? People are going to be willing to do that. I mean, I'm willing to do that. I know Jason's willing to do that. So that's a really great way if you're ready for that. And then the other thing that I would recommend, I think that Jason and I would both recommend, and Jason, you've already said this, is that if you've had these conversations, if you've had these honest conversations, if you've done all of these things and your group is still not on board, time to find a new group. You are allowed to do that. You are allowed to cultivate people in your life who support and empathize with you, right? Because supporting does not mean that they agree with everything that you do, right? Supporting also means that they question, they wonder, they push your thinking. But if you are only surrounded by people who are trying to draw you back into that group, who are trying to encourage you to not make decisions that you know are best for you, then it might be time to find some new people. And that's okay. That is totally okay. Well, do you think, did I miss anything? Did I miss anything about what we can do to move beyond, you know, the outsider syndrome? Is there anything that you guys are feeling was missed in this conversation?
I don't think so.
Becca, how are you feeling? Are you leaving this conversation with maybe some new information or some ideas on how you can battle the outsider syndrome?
Yeah, I think I need to definitely like rip the Band-Aid off and just have these more put together conversations. with like my family and stuff like that.
You know, I think if you're feeling the need to have those conversations, then they probably have to be had. I would say if you're not feeling the need, right? And you said it beautifully before in the beginning. You don't owe anybody a conversation, right? This is totally up to you. But if you are feeling like you want to share or you need to share, then I think there's a way to go about it that that will protect you, that keeps your power with you, and invites people to join you on your adventure. And those that don't want to get on the train, like Jason said, they don't have to get on the train, but that train's leaving the station with or without them.
So, and another thing too is that you really need to think about is this is your timeline. You create the timeline. You can start to tell people, and if you don't like the feedback you're getting, you can stop. You can kind of reevaluate the situation at any point in time. There's nothing saying you have to tell everybody before surgery. You can tell some people after surgery, because at least at that point, if they can't try to talk you out of it, because whether you're going to put your stomach back, no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So, I mean, and that's one of those things that may have to happen too, because like I know that I told a couple of people that I was the night before I went in, because I'm like, hey, guess what? Tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. So what's up? And that's just kind of the thing about it is everything about this is your timeline. You don't, and you've already said you don't owe anybody anything as far as the conversation goes. So tell who you want to tell. Don't tell who you don't want to tell. They'll see you, they'll see the changes, and they may remark on it. You can just tell them, hey, I'm just doing better things. I'm living better, because you're not lying at that point. You're eating better, you're living better. The things about what you've done, you've made some lifestyle changes, and that's all you need to do. You leave it at that. You don't have to tell everybody you had surgery. Who gives a shit? Like they don't need to know all the ins and outs of what's going on with you. All you need to know is I used to look like this, now I look like this, what's up?
Yep. If you are listening or watching this conversation and you are part of the group that has really never experienced the outsider syndrome, or maybe you haven't been through weight loss surgery, but somebody in your life has been through weight loss surgery, I think listening and being a part of this conversation is only going to help you be a better person for somebody who is going through weight loss surgery. It's important to know how other people are feeling, how other people are experiencing their weight loss surgery, and to know that this is a real thing means that you can adjust how you interact with people who have been through weight loss surgery or are going through weight loss surgery, right? It doesn't mean that you can't question, that you can't wonder, that you can't probe, but hopefully this gives you some really great insight into how you can be the best support person for somebody going through weight loss surgery. I'm sure it's never your intention to make somebody feel like an outsider. And it would be a really powerful question for you to ask somebody, hey, am I making you feel like an outsider? Or am I making you feel like you don't belong? Because if I am, I apologize. I absolutely don't want you to feel like that. So what can I do to make you know that you are still a part of this group or a part of this family or a part of this circle, right? That's a really powerful question to ask somebody if you're on the outside looking in. And all that's going to do is invite honest conversation, meaningful conversation, and it's really going to strengthen your relationship with everybody involved. So I hope that you know that you can be a person that makes somebody feel welcome and comforted along their journey if you're looking from the outside in.
Right. Well, and having concern, and please don't think that we're saying having concerns as being negative. You know, being worried about somebody that you love, being worried about somebody that's a really good friend to you, those are all perfectly normal because, like we said, this is a serious procedure. These types of worries are going to happen regardless. I don't care how supportive you are. You can be the most uplifting, supporting person in the world. You can still have questions, concerns. You can still be nervous about things, and that's perfectly normal. You just have to make sure and relay the fact that, you know, I'm not being negative. I'm just nervous. I just want to make sure that you're okay. Because if you are that close with someone and you have that relationship with someone, of course you don't want to see anything bad happen to them. You don't want to see them hurt. You don't want to see them struggle. So those are all perfectly normal thoughts and feeling processes and all those things. But it's better to talk those through with the person that's going through it versus not talking about it and it possibly coming out looking like you're not supporting that person. So, you know, those are all things, because us going through the surgery and all that, it's not just us doing it. It's, you know, for me, it was my wife went through it, my son went through it, my daughters went through it, my granddaughters went through it. Like, it was all, it happened to all of us, not just myself, because they all had concern. They all had questions. Everybody wanted to make sure that I was okay. And that's going to be normal. That's going to happen. So, you know, just you just want to be remembered after all the dust settles. You want to be remembered as the positive, uplifting, supportive person. You don't want to be the person that put a negative spin on something that's a fantastic process for somebody to rebuild their life.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. All right, you guys, I think we did it. I think we took a deep dive into the outsider syndrome. I think we were able to share how we have all experienced this in our own different ways. And I think we're all leaving here armed with some really great tools to help us navigate through the outsider syndrome so that we can come out on the other side stronger. Becca, we can't thank you enough for being so open and honest and willing to share your experiences with us. I know that can be really raw, and you continue to be such a wonderful resource for the community and really for yourself. I think Jason and I always say this, whenever we leave our podcast, he and I always are amazed at how much we've learned about ourselves and each other and how much we grow in these conversations. So I hope that you're getting the same thing as well.
Definitely.
I am. Thank you guys so much.
Yep.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
So as always, we appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you watching. As we say all the time, Jason and I created this community because we felt a need. So if you are watching, if you are listening, if you like what you heard, if you like what you saw, if it resonated with you, please like this episode. Please subscribe. We also welcome and invite reviews. And as Jason said, we're always looking for your feedback. If there's something that you think that we can improve, please do let us know. You're not going to hurt our feelings. If there's something that you absolutely loved and you were so excited that we put out there for you, please also let us know that too. We definitely want to make sure that we're only producing things that are of value to you and the community. And we only know that if you give us your feedback. So we very much appreciate that. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, we're excited to continue to deep dive into more topics.
Definitely. Thank you guys so much for the support, the love. Instagram's growing like crazy. Between the shout out Sundays and everything we've got going on Instagram, you guys are killing it as far as the community goes, helping us grow and build. And we appreciate you guys so much, because we couldn't do this without you guys. We do this for you guys, for ourselves. So we just appreciate all the love and support.
Awesome. All right, guys, with that, we'll wrap up the episode. Thank you again. And we look forward to catching you guys on the next episode.
Yep. See you later.
Awesome. Bye, guys.